With the latest on the corporate front, all the market trends, expert opinion, and sound business advice. It is your unique window into the business world, direct from the heart of China.
Hello and welcome to Biz Today. I'm Zhao Yang in Beijing. The World Economic Forum held its annual meeting earlier this week in Davos, Switzerland. This year's Davos meeting theme is collaboration in the intelligent age. The event brought together nearly 3,000 leaders from 130 countries. It's expected to address global challenges and explore emerging opportunities. At the opening ceremony, Klaus Schwab, the forum's founder, said in his speech that the world must face an erosion of trust in society, and he called for global collaboration to regain the trust. Meanwhile, Chinese Vice Premier Ding Xuexiang also gave a speech. He noted the importance of globalization and multilateralism. He said the international community should jointly foster new drivers and strength for global economic development. So for more on this, join us on the line now is Dr. Zhou Mi, Senior Research Fellow with Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation, Andy Mark, Senior Research Fellow at the Center for China and Globalization, and also Yan Liang, Professor of Economics, Willamette University. So I will start with you. Davos this year focuses on collaboration for the intelligent age. So what's your understanding of the intelligent age?
So I think this has to do with the idea of AI revolution. So this is the idea that AI is going to lead the next technological innovation, sort of the wave. And with the development of all the foundational models and with the application of the AI technology, the idea is that this is going to propel, economic growth by driving up productivity and also fueling more innovations and also investments. So the idea is that with now global economy recovered from the COVID and yet still facing a lot of challenges, including geopolitical tensions, climate change, and so on and so forth. The idea is that we need to foster more collaboration and develop the AI technology in order to, again, recover the global economic growth, but also develop technologies to drive the economy forward.
So Andy, what's your understanding of the intelligent age and how different is it from the old days?
Well, that really, I think, is an existential question. So on the one hand, there are people that argue it could not be any more different than all of previous human history. We might see machines far smarter than humans. We might even see humans achieve immortality. Humans might become extinct, so radically different. On the other hand, we do have people who say that while artificial intelligence will be important, it won't fundamentally change the trajectory of mankind. So I think we don't really know, and this is what makes it so exciting. It's also so scary at the same time, and I think really underscores this notion that we really have to get it right. We really have to understand what are the real implications of artificial intelligence.
So Dr. Zhou Mi, at this age, what challenge do you think facing the global economy?
Well, for the challenges, I think that there are many challenges. Among them, maybe three are more important. The first one is governance. So how can we fulfill our promises in the multilateral systems and trying to be certain and for the better fighting against some uncertainty that need us to stop the protectionism and trying to be more multilateralism. And second is how can we fulfill our commitments for the global climate change? How can we stop the warming? And it is also a lot of impacts on agriculture development, and which is very important for so many countries. And the third one is about how can we deal with this technology development, artificial intelligence, and also some other new emerging technology that they are reshaping the world. So we have to deal with the uncertainties and make it very strong and stable environment for all the stakeholders to move on together.
Uncertainties. And we also know that Donald Trump has his plan to revitalize Americans' manufacturing industry and also impose tariffs to support his domestic industries. How do you think this will affect the U.S. economy and the global economy?
Well, I think from Trump, trade war number one, we have seen that he has levied high tariffs on China. And all these tariffs didn't really bring back many of the so-called, to bring back the manufacturing jobs. So we know that tariff was not a very effective tool to achieve that goal. And I don't really think that Donald Trump himself really cared that much about bringing back manufacturing jobs. I think he is playing, the economic populism and trying to really please his base. Tariff is really not a tool to create manufacturing jobs. If it does anything, is going to cost more when it comes to importing consumer goods. This is going to cost American families, on average, American households, in terms of the consumption bundles, 10 to 12% come from products that are made in China. So this is going to be, a toll on the American average households. I think it also in some ways undermines industrial competitiveness of the U.S. Businesses, because a lot of them do rely on the global supply chain, and a lot, from China's imported intermediate goods. So with more costly production costs, this is not going to be conducive for a lot of these American companies. I think the U.S.'s deindustrialization has been going on since the 70s, and it was worsened by the whole financialization trend. So without addressing some of the more internal fundamental problems, I don't see how tariff is going to help to bring jobs back to the United States. And tariffs definitely would disrupt the global trading system. And so I think that is going to create lose-lose situations for not just the United States, but also for U.S.'s trade partners, which include not only, what U.S. consider as adversaries, but also U.S. allies. So I think that creates a lot of uncertainty and also, I would say, fragility for the global supply chain.
And Dr. Zhou Mi, so Chinese Vice Premier Ding Xuexiang saying at Davos that protectionism doesn't solve problems and trade wars help no one. So what more can you say about China's efforts to promote the trade cooperation and fight against protectionism?
Well, first of all, I think that China has, made promises in the WTO and also with our trading partners in the free trade agreements that we were going to decrease the tariffs to all the related stakeholders. So we actually are, lowered our tariffs even lower than we promised in the WTO commitments. So the second, I think that China is also a very strong supporter for the trade facilitation, because the trade facilitation is another way for us to reduce the cost in the border, in the customs. I think that is really important for us to introduce more technology to help the customs to reduce the time that has to be used for the clearance of the goods. And third, I think it is also true for China to expand the channels for the trade, like we improve the domestic market and trying to import more things from other countries, like agricultural products from African countries, other ASEAN countries. We have put it in the list for the imports. So it is really important for us to use the power of the market to trying to give the exporters of other countries more confidence and more supplies. Well, on the other hand, I would also say that it is not only what we are going to do just by ourselves. We cooperate with our trading partners. In WTO, we promote several kind of initiatives, and we are very actively joined the negotiation of the several preliminary levels of initiatives. That is very important for us to deal with the situation. And we're also going to address the challenges in the dispute settlement mechanism. And I think it's really a very active and stable gesture by China that we were trying to keep on our promises and going to cooperate with our partners to improve the transparency and the predictability of the multilateral trading systems.
And Yan, so how exactly is China contributing to building up this intelligent age to benefit the global economy? Tell us more about this new emerging industries, the technological innovation. What are happening in China on those fronts?
Yeah, I think China played two really important role in terms of building the progress, right, towards the intelligence age. One is China is really forging ahead when it comes to technological innovations and developments. We know China is leading in, for example, AI patents. China also has developed many of the large language models like Doubao, like DeepSeek 3.0, which, by the way, is 96% cheaper than ChatGPT and some of the other large language models. And it's also having the open source system. So it really helped to promote, technological sharing. And also, this is a much cost-effective model. It uses less parameters, but still achieve superior performances in many areas. So I think China is leading in terms of technological innovations in the AI space. And second, I think China plays a very important role in building the digital infrastructure, the AI infrastructure, not only within its own country, but I would say also helping other countries. As we know, companies like Huawei has been really helped to build internet infrastructure in many of the global South countries. So there's a lot of, as we know, the so-called digital gap among countries. We have, countries like Saudi Arabia and that has 100% internet penetration rates, United States 97%, South Korea 97, 98%. But we also have people in the global south, like Nigerians, they only have 35% of the internet penetration rate, Ethiopia only 19%. So I think China has been helping to build a lot of these internet infrastructure to allow countries to have cost-effective and reliable internet. And when it comes to AI, we know this is a very expensive undertaking, not only in terms of the monetary value. Some of the cutting edge GPUs can cost up to, $40,000 a piece, but it's also very energy intensive. So the gap is going to remain, but I think China is playing a really constructive role in providing the infrastructure, bring in more sort of renewable energy solutions and the technologies to help to, promote AI development, around the world.
And Andy, actually, Chinese NEV sector is also taking the lead in the world. And the EV battery maker CATL, the CATL's co-chairman, he said at Davos Forum that China's talent pool of the software engineers has boosted its EV industry. So what do you think of that?
Well, I think that's absolutely correct. So one of the most important contributions I think that China is making to this age of, whatever we want to call it, intelligence, this new era of transformative technologies, really is a world-class talent pool. In terms of STEM graduates, I think China graduates twice as many as the United States. And we also, know that in the US, many STEM many STEM students, especially graduate students, come from China. So I think this is vitally important. And this reminds me of a comment that Tim Cook made about tooling engineers, where he said that, in the US, they would struggle to fill a conference room full of tooling engineers. In China, they can easily fill stadiums of them. And I think this is not that well appreciated, but actually, I think, decisive in driving some of the advances that we've seen from, as you mentioned, CATL with its batteries to the electric vehicle makers, to companies like DeepSeek, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that this deep and broad talent pool is vital.
And yeah, actually, we are now certainly at a crossroads when it comes to technology. And there is a technology race among major economic powers. And so, how do you see the world fostering stronger collaboration in the intelligent age to support the global economy?
Well, I think cooperation is very important because, again, what we economists talked about when it comes to technology is it really follows the pattern of the so-called endogenous growth, meaning that the more you develop technology, the more you drive up productivity and output expansion, then the more it helps to propel even more innovations and more productivity growth. And so it forms a very virtuous cycle, so to speak. So that technological sharing and cooperation it's very important to advance technological development. However, I think in the current environment, we have all these rising geopolitical tensions. We have the United States seeing China as a strategic competitor, quote unquote. So I think it becomes difficult when it comes to a genuine sort of cooperations. We know that the United States has taken measures to, for example, ban some of the cutting edge microchips or computer chips to be exported to China. They're also working with allies to ban some of these chip making machineries to China. So I think all these are going to go against this idea of collaborations and joint efforts to promote technological innovations. And I think the other concern is that without really cooperation in terms of the governance structure, I think that could also become very problematic because you can easily see how AI can be misused or abused without the collaborations on formulating some sort of universal governing rules. Some countries could deregulate in order to promote more investments and technological innovations in their countries at the expense of others, right? So we hear a lot at the Davos that the United States has been deregulating, yet the Europeans are worried about, their tight regulations on the AI are going to put them at a disadvantaged position. But we do know AI governance is very important to ensure that AI is used as a force of good rather than evil. So I think collaborations are really important on those two fronts, in both promoting technological innovations, but also in really effective governance of the technology as well.
And Dr. Zhou Mi, so how could we bridge the digital divide between economies and make sure that we focus more on the cooperative side of the technology?
Well, if we're talking about the cooperation, I think that it is really important for us to do two things. The first one is that if we are going to support the, developing economies and also the least developed countries, we must let them know the importance of developing those things. So we have to show them some of the examples and some of the possibilities if we are going to put more energy, the technology into the economy. So we are trying to let them know that if we are not going to catch up, we will maybe lose so far that we cannot even catch up in the future. So that is important for us to make some plans. That is also for us to trying to have a better expectation of the market. I think that is the first thing. And second, I think that based on these plans, based on very good efforts by all the related stakeholders, we should try to put some real effective ways to improve the real infrastructure and also improve the environment for the technology development. So we know that in a lot of African countries, they do not have enough electricity, even for the lights. So if they are going to be involved into our era of digital economy or cooperation, they have to use even more electricity. They need more stable electricities. So I think that is also related with infrastructure, like for the renewable energy, with the solar panels, with the wind turbines. So I think that is are very important infrastructure if we are going to support them. Well, based on that infrastructure, I think that the enterprises are really important. They are going to make some profits based on the possibilities of cooperation. So if we can do this, I think that these countries have a fundamental abilities to be involved in the digital cooperation. And then we can improve the governance, the free trade agreements or other, like the digital economic partnership, some other agreements to increase the transparency and the predictability of the the trading cooperation relations, and that is also very important for us to do more to reduce the digital divides. I think that is necessary for startup of those countries to catching up.
Well, we're speaking with Dr. Zhou Mi from Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation, Andy Mark, Senior Research Fellow at the Center for China and Globalization, and also Yan Liang, Professor of Economics, Willamette University. And after a short break, we'll continue to discuss what's being heard and said at this year's Davos Forum in Switzerland. Stay with us.
Welcome. I'm Elaf Ellard, economics professor and member of the Data Science and AI Center at New York University, Shanghai. On the World Today program, you can find in-depth and impartial insight, as well as critical commentary on key trends in the Chinese economy, financial technology, business, and blockchain. To prepare for the world tomorrow, join me on World Today.
Hi, I'm Einar Tangen, a political and economic analyst and senior fellow at the independent Taihe Institute. World Today is news without the hype and business commentary that is informed and up to date, presenting the facts and asking incisive questions. So, join us if you are someone who needs to know what is happening in China as it is happening.
You're listening to Biz Today. I'm Zhao Yang in Beijing. At this year's Davos Forum, many discussions involve, advancements in AI, the rise of innovative technology enterprises, and the evolving China-US technology landscape. So, Yan, how do you see this latest development of AI industry? How would you describe the overarching trend in the global artificial intelligence industry?
Well, I think I see four trends in that AI development space. One is that there's been really I would say, investment fervent. When we look at how many companies, especially large tech companies, have been really pouring money into the AI industry. And it's not just in terms of the direct sort of AI model training and development, but also some of the other parts of the supply chain, right? For example, GPU. Cloud services, and so on. So the data shows that the first 3/4 of 2024, global AI funding hit $55.3 billion, which is $1.2 billion more than the entire investment from 2023. So we're seeing this really increase in investments into the AI industry and also, the other parts of the supply chain. And second is, I think that United States, with the election of Donald Trump, we're likely to see more deregulation in the tech space. And of course, Trump has been a supporter for the development of AI, and he has just bring together some of the companies and investors like SoftBank and Oracle and OpenAI to start this new company called Stargate to build initially 10 data centers, but eventually they wanted to build 20 different AI centers, each with 500,000 square feet in the United States. So these are mega projects to develop the AI technology. Then I'm seeing also intensifying competition among companies within the United States. You're seeing, Google, Microsoft, all these companies and Apple as well are really competing in that AI space. And that competition, of course, also comes from China with some very promising startups. And finally, I'm seeing, divergence, of course. Some of the companies are, sort of late in the game, like Apple, and others are simply are taking more of a lead role here. And of course, we just mentioned about the AI gap. So I'm also seeing divergences between the leading countries like the United States and many of the other countries they're left behind. And I also think that, when it comes to building foundational models, there has been quite a bit of progress. But yet, in terms of the applications and also the commercialization of AI technologies, I think that there's still very large room to explore and improve.
And Andy, so there is a growing concerns over whether AI's true benefits will be only to a small group of powerful corporations. So what do you make of that? And do you think it will be only in the hands of a few players?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jiaoyang. I think let me start with my answer, which is a very simple one. I think everyone will benefit from artificial intelligence, whether that's, let's call it artificial general intelligence, which is what we're heading towards. I think everyone will benefit, but will someone capture the lion's share of the benefits? And here, of course, if the internet and mobile internet is any guide, we can see that people around the world, including those in the global south, have benefited from the mobile internet. We can order cars, taxis, carry out food, et cetera. We can do all these amazing things. And yet it has given rise to a handful of trillion-dollar companies. So this dynamic may play out. I think I want to point out here something that Professor Liang mentioned, this company DeepSeek. But what's very important to mention here is that they have done something that is really quite astonishing, in that they've trained a AI model with something like 670 billion parameters using only about 2,000 NVIDIA H800 chips or GPUs in 2 months. Now, these are the chips that are the lower powered versions of the H100. So what this means is, in fact, this may actually put AI power into the hands of the many versus perhaps we could call it a small cartel of major companies. And, as I have said, I think these are very, very exciting times with very high stakes, including the future of mankind, potentially.
I agree with Andy that, with the DeepSeek 3.0, what it's amazing is, again, like Andy said, it's much more cost effective. It uses a lot less money, so to speak. It's, some of the data show that it is 96% less expensive than ChatGPT 4.0. So I think that really shows how China is quickly catching up, if not already leading, I would say, in some of these generative large language model AIs.
Well, we're speaking with Andy Mark, Senior Research Fellow at the Center for China and Globalization, Yan Liang, Professor of Economics, Willamette University, and also Dr. Zhou Mi with the Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation. And that's all the time we have for this edition of Biz Today. I'm Zhao Yang in Beijing. Thank you so much for listening.